The sale of two major ports in the Panama Canal by Hutchison Whampoa, a company controlled by Hong Kong billionaire Ka-shing, to the American BlackRock Consortium for $22.8 billion. The deal was executed despite several factors. Timing and trade tensions. The transaction was scheduled to take place before April 2nd, which was the original date set by then U.S. President Donald Trump to impose a 20% tariff on China. This suggests that the sale might have had geopolitical or economic motivations, possibly related to the ongoing U.S.-China trade war at the time. Chinese government and investigations. The deal occurred despite public opinion, national security concerns, and antitrust investigations from the Chinese government. This implies that there was scrutiny from Beijing, likely due to the strategic importance of the Panama Canal, a key global trade route. The Chinese government may have viewed the sale as a loss of Chinese influence in a critical infrastructure project. Chung Kong Holdings' role. Chung Kong Holdings, another company under Ka-shing's business empire, played a role in pushing forward the sale as planned. This indicates that the transaction was carefully timed and orchestrated to proceed regardless of external pressures. Significance of the buyer, BlackRock Consortium. BlackRock, a major American investment firm, led the consortium acquiring the ports. This could be seen as a strategic move by the U.S. to gain greater control over key shipping infrastructure, possibly as a counter to Chinese influence in global trade routes. What do Chinese say? Chinese say that the countdown to the Panama port transaction is coming. Bloomberg reported recently that Chung Kong Holdings will push forward the Panama port transaction as scheduled, and the time is planned to be before April 2nd. April 2nd is the date when Trump was originally scheduled to impose a 20% tariff on China. In the face of public opinion and investigation, despite the Chinese government and national security and antitrust investigations, Ka-shing's Hutchison Whampoa still sold the two major ports of the Panama Canal to the American BlackRock Consortium for $22.8 billion. Chinese officials have repeatedly warned, and the Guangdong Macau office has continuously forwarded the sharp comments of the Ta Kung Pao, pointing out that the transaction may threaten national navigation safety and calling on companies not to stand on the wrong side. Why does Changhe insist on pushing forward the Panama port transaction as scheduled? In the face of doubts, Changhe Group emphasized that the transaction is only a commercial act. First of all, Changhe Group has invested a lot of money in port construction and operation over the years. And abandoning this transaction may bring great economic losses in business. Secondly, the United States previously pressured Panama to withdraw from the Belt and Road Initiative and accused China of controlling the Panama Canal. From a businessman's perspective, Changhe's sell-off was a consideration of being eager to get rid of the complex political vortex and avoid potential political risks. However, is the truth of the matter really so simple? Hong Kong's Ta Kung Pao has published articles in succession, repeatedly criticizing Ka-shing for being greedy and putting personal business interests above national interests. The rare reprint of relevant comments by the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office of the State Council has suddenly escalated the political sensitivity of the incident and aroused great attention from the whole society. So, in order to actively respond to the risks that the transaction may bring to the country, the Chinese government has taken quick action and taken multidimensional measures to fully defend the country's core interests. In mid-March, China sent a high-level delegation to visit Panama. In-depth exchanges and communications were carried out with Panama, and an important consensus on deepening cooperation was successfully reached. During the meeting, the President of Panama had a clear attitude and firmly stated that the sovereignty of the Panama Canal is sacred and inviolable. At the domestic regulatory level, the State Administration for Market Regulation is said to have quickly intervened to conduct a comprehensive and detailed investigation into whether there are any monopoly risks or security loopholes in the transaction. At the same time, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has repeatedly emphasized in international occasions that China firmly opposes any form of economic coercion and maintains a fair, just and free international economic order, demonstrating China's firm position and responsibility as a major country in international economic exchanges. It is worth mentioning that Chinese companies have also taken action in this incident. Although COSCO Shipping Ports did not directly and clearly express its intention to acquire, its chairman Zhu Dao revealed that the company has always maintained a strong interest in assets that are in line with its own strategic layout, and plans to vigorously expand its port layout in South America, Africa, and other regions. This statement was also keenly captured by the outside world and regarded as a potential signal that Chinese companies may intervene in the Panama port transaction. At present, Chinese port operators are actively contacting and communicating with Changhe. All signs indicate that once Chinese companies intervene strongly, it is very likely to break the existing transaction pattern and reshape the transaction structure. But the current time pressure has become the biggest practical challenge. According to the plan, the final delivery agreement will be signed on April 2nd. Now there are only a few days left, and the time left for all parties to mediate and adjust is extremely limited. At this critical moment, on March 23rd, Li Ka-shing's second son, Li Zikai, attended the China Development Forum as the chairman of Pacific Century Group, which triggered widespread speculation. Although this trip was not directly related to the port transaction, the presence of mainland senior officials at a sensitive time was seen as the Li family trying to ease public pressure and repair the corporate image and reputation damaged by the Panama port transaction. Then this game around the Panama port transaction is essentially a profound reflection of the difficult balance between commercial interests and national security under the wave of globalization. This decision by Li Ka-shing and his Chung Kong Group not only concerns Li Ka-shing's personal business reputation and the future development direction of the company, but also becomes a typical epitome of the strategic competition among major powers. China has exerted its efforts through multiple channels such as diplomacy, public opinion, and law, exerting pressure in all directions, fully demonstrating its firm determination and strong execution to resolutely safeguard national interests. The United States, on the other hand, is trying to further consolidate its global hegemony through capital expansion and seek greater benefits at key strategic nodes around the world. The final result of this game is likely to reshape the strategic landscape of global ports and rewrite the economic and political ecology of related regions. So with only a few days left before the signing of the agreement in early April, can this actual transaction that touches the nerves of China and the United States proceed as scheduled? Another Chinese say that why is it said that Li Ka-shing's business is business and business is untenable? If Li Ka-shing turns back, is it too late? Recently, Chung Kong Group, owned by Li Ka-shing, released a financial report. The revenue of the port business is naturally the focus, and the specific data will not be mentioned. In summary, although the port is not the main business, it is very profitable, and the growth rate is rapid, and the prospects are promising. But Li Ka-shing plans to sell the operating rights of 43 ports under his control to the United States. Why? Li Ka-shing insisted that business is business, but this statement is untenable. The ports in Li Ka-shing's hands are actually quite marketable, and many mainland companies are very interested, but Li Ka-shing is indifferent to this and seems to only want to sell the ports to the United States. Li Ka-shing keeps saying that he is business and business, but he seems to have forgotten that what businessmen care most about is to maximize profits. Li Ka-shing has been up and down in the business world for decades. Is this a mistake, or does he just want to use business and business to achieve his real purpose? I saw that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has made another comment on this incident. The spokesperson expressed opposition to the use of economic coercion and bullying to infringe upon the legitimate rights and interests of other countries. I remember that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has emphasized the same words before. It is not ruled out that China has already characterized this business behavior, that is, the United States is manipulating hegemony in the name of so-called business actions, and China will never tolerate such behavior from the United States. The countermeasures against American agricultural products some time ago are a good example. For Li Ka-shing, if he can take the initiative to terminate the transaction before China's official actions, he can not only restore his reputation, but also perhaps stop the plummeting stock price of Changhe, which can be said to be a double gain of fame and fortune. So will these two actions of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs make Li Ka-shing stop at the brink? A good sign is that Li Ka-shing's Chung Kong Hutchison Group is discussing solutions with the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region government. It is completely in time for Li Ka-shing to change his mind now, because there are at least 3 major procedures to go through before the final delivery stage of the port. First, it must be reviewed by the EU and other forces. The United States has stabbed Europe in the back over the Ukraine issue. Will the EU repay evil with virtue and let the United States get the port smoothly? Second, there are also divisions within the United States. Some American congressmen are worried that BlackRock Group, which has a good relationship with Trump, will be too powerful after obtaining the port operation rights. The Democratic Party may not be able to check and balance it in the future, so they hope that the Federal Trade Commission will investigate him. Third, although the port business is not the main business of Chung Kong, it can be expected to develop. Therefore, Chung Kong needs to hold a shareholders' meeting internally to conduct a vote. Although these 3 stages can be carried out at the same time, it also takes a certain amount of time. The matter has not been settled, and we should not argue about whether Li Ka-shing is patriotic or not. This will hurt our harmony. What is the best way? Hong Kong Chief Executive Li Jiaqiao said that the correct answer is to act in accordance with the law. If Li Ka-shing's business behavior endangers national security, let the law punish him, which is much more effective than 100 or 1,000 sentences of public condemnation.